Matthew loved his family, loved us so much. That when he jumped from the bridge, he was wearing a life vest. The reason, and he wrote it on a note that he left in his truck, and said that he was wearing a life vest so that he could be found, so that his parents wouldn't have to worry about where he was. Now, is this a child who wants to hurt his family? He would have hurt us for the world. Sorry, Annie. But this is what happened. This is what this drug did to my son. It made him someone he wasn't. Matthew, she knows also, because she had a sweet little girl who was only 12 years old. You know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying, and I still think back to being in that doctor's office and saying, I don't want her on this, and his casualness, his, what are you worried about? And not knowing any different. We've all talked about the fact we just didn't know. But the guilt that comes from watching people give your child medication or giving it to them yourself, making sure they take it because they tell you, don't let them miss a day.
That's right.
And it ends up killing them. I think about the warning signs that we had that we didn't know were warning signs. I remember sitting there watching Candace go like this, and I said, Candace, what's wrong? And she said, I don't know, I'm just itchy, and not realizing it, that it was that feeling of needles, of burning under her skin, and she was trying to get rid of it, but she was 12 years old and she couldn't tell me. And I'm thinking, oh, it's
shaking.
Yeah.
Showing me how his hands were shaking.
And I, same
telling
thing.
me that his heart was beating fast.
Candace was shaking, and I remember thinking I really should take her to a neurologist because, you know, her hand is shaking. Sometimes it would be hard to hold something. But not knowing that that was a sign that the severity of the amount of medication in her system, I just assumed it was dry skin. And I think about her curled up in her father's arms laughing. And that's my last time I saw my child alive. Who would ever assume that this happy child that is embraced in her father's love with her sister right there would walk up to her room and hang herself from the valance of her bed? And nobody knew it. They were there. Nobody knew it because we had no signs. I think about days when I thought I was going to die myself because my pain was so intense that nobody could live through the breaking heart that I was suffering. I remember being in a fetal position on my laundry room floor, thinking I was dying, and calling my therapist saying, I don't think I can live. I can't catch my breath. I can't live. And what did keep me living was the fact that I had a surviving child who needed me. And I needed to be there for her because I don't know if I could have done it. And I remember Candace had drawn a little heart on her hand. And in the heart, she had written 911. And then she had covered it with a bumblebee sticker. She didn't know she was going to die. She thought she was going to be saved. She didn't know she was doing this. 12 years old.
Oh my.
Okay. There's Matt. Matthew was sick, but he went to basketball practice.
Matthew had 22 points the other night. He was awesome.
Matthew's personality was infectious. His love of life was infectious. Everybody wanted a part of it.
He was just a breath of fresh air, like sunshine, and people loved being around him.
He was outgoing and always smiling and funny and, you know, playful.
Matthew was a friend to everybody. You know, he'd play with anybody, young or old or this or that.
My first memory of Matt was in the 3rd grade. We had the same teacher.
We really became friends in 3rd grade when we had a class together.
The first time I had ever met him actually was at a high school football game.
And we hit it off instantly. I remember one of the first things I remember about Matt and the Steubings. I remember coming home and telling my dad that they're all a bunch of angels.
He was so much fun. He taught me how to skip school.
He was always supportive, like, If there was anything wrong, he knew how to pick you up.
We were on a basketball team together. We played basketball together all the time growing up.
We spent hours next to each other, ribbing each other, and by the end I was just proud as I could be to finally, you know, at least in one of the games I beat him.
I mean, it was very easy to stand on the side and just, you know, just grin ear to ear because the kid was absolutely cool. And in my life, he is still cool.
The more I learned just how much our kids are being drugged, the more outraged I became. But I was truly horrified at the extent of psychiatric drugging that is forced on children who don't even have a parent to protect them. No one knows this better than foster child counselor Sonia Mohammed, who works with the County of Los Angeles, dealing every day with children diagnosed and forced to take psychiatric drugs.
My personal experience has been that these drugs are very, very dangerous. We don't see any evidence of them doing or accomplishing the things that the parents are being told that they're supposed to accomplish. And unfortunately, there are many stories like yours, which is so unfortunate. My heart is with you and your family that you had to experience this, because no one is really listening to any type of alternative conversation regarding this.
It seems that foster children are much more likely to be medicated than, say, other children. Why is that?
Several reasons. The main reason being is we don't have time to deal with you. That's my take on it. So what we'll do is shut you up and we'll shut you down. That's basically it. Most of the kids that are placed by the Department of Children and Family Services, they're there because they were removed from their homes because of abuse, whether it be emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, a combination thereof. It doesn't seem to occur to the system that this kid is scared. This kid, if they are a victim already of abuse or of some form, that they already are traumatized. And so many of the kids are immediately, in some cases, referred to the local psychologist and diagnosed with something. And then as a consequence, then the drugs are recommended. What I have mentioned to some people before is that I have been in homes where I saw the kids' files piled up in a worker's arms, the files taken to the local psychiatrist. The psychiatrist write a diagnosis, write prescriptions, and they've never even seen the child.
Based on what they've read in a file?
Based on absolutely nothing, because there was nothing but the manager's or whomever case worker's word that this kid is acting out. So we don't even really sometimes have anything in writing other than they're not cooperating with the program, they're crying too much at night, they refuse to go to school in the morning, and that sort of thing. Just verbal information, not even any notes that the psychiatrist can actually follow.
What type of diagnosis are they giving? Are they calling them ADHD?
Well, always ADHD. Everybody is ADHD. That's the beginning one. And then bipolar, and then manic depressive. For foster kids, it's disastrous because many of them, they're bouncing from home to home, school to school, and they're not learning. And so, of course, they're learning disordered, and all of them are emotionally disturbed, and all of them are ADHD. And I would probably say in Los Angeles County alone, we have probably about 50,000 kids in the system. And I would be willing to
say— In the foster care system?
Yes, in Los Angeles County alone. We're not talking Orange County, any of the counties up north.
What percentage of those do you think are on drugs?
I would be willing to say from experience well over, somewhere between 50% and 75%.
It's astounding. Thank you so much for everything. Our children came from loving homes, and we've still experienced these problems, but as far as foster care children go, you know, they've all had issues and reasons that they've been taken from their homes, and I understand that they
are automatically put on drugs. Certainly they have to go through psychiatric evaluations. So I know you have experience with that.
Right, yeah. Actually, I remember seeing a study that children in foster care are 3 times more likely to be on a psychiatric medication than other children who were on Medicaid. The foster parents don't know. They don't know. When you go into the foster classes, they're told that medication is the answer. When your child is having these issues, get them in. Get them in. Those were the exact words. Get them in fast so that you can get their medication adjusted. And then the issues continue. Or the child just kind of goes numb.
Or the children die. Like
or the children die.
In Florida.
When I got my little boy, he was on 8 50-milligram pills a day of Seroquel, the antipsychotic, which for a child under 50 pounds is really incredible. That was on top of his ADHD medication. He was so drugged and so violent, I was actually afraid of him, and we would hide our knives at night, our kitchen knives, when we'd go to bed as a family, because we were afraid that he would get up in the night and harm someone. He became so bad that he actually, in one of his foster homes, slaughtered their family pets with a kitchen knife. Oh, the foster mother came home, and she sees this, and she thought a burglar had gotten into the house. She was just distraught. Oh my gosh, who could have done this? It never even crossed her mind that the preschooler did it. And she figured it out, that it was him. He had gotten so violent on these medications that he had killed her little family pets. It was decided that he should go to the state hospital, and I left there, and I decided that I would try him. They said I had 2 weeks to turn him around, and then the state hospital was still there if I couldn't do anything. And so I brought him into my home, and the first thing we did is tons of nutrition. Food in its most natural form, tons of raw food, tons of whole grains. That's what we did. Lots of real nutrition. And then we started taking him off of his medications. And he turned around so much that I became known in the caseworker's office as the miracle worker. He just made such a turnaround, and today he's just incredible. He skipped a grade, and he's still tops out, nationally. He tests out so high in even the grade that he's in. Plays a couple instruments. He's fabulous at school. This is an exceptional child.
He's not showing violence toward his sister or your family pets?
Oh, no. He's very sweet with all of our pets. We have 5 dogs, 3 cats, and he's wonderful. And it's just incredible to me how many children out there are in his exact shoes and will never
There aren't enough people like you to care.
And the doctor can just blame it on trauma.
Or, if a child commits suicide so often, it's just, we didn't get to them soon enough. That's what it is. We didn't get to them soon enough. Because that takes the blame off of them completely. Or like my son's psychiatrist said when her patient shot himself, where'd he get a gun? No, looking introspectively, where'd he get the will? So it's just somebody else's fault. It's never the medications that I prescribed.
Oh my God.
Or like it was an everyday occurrence, and I was just sitting there flabbergasted and thinking to myself when she said, when she was finally, it said that he was okay to come off all his medications, and with his Seroquel, she said, wow, I am just so glad to see that he can still imagine and play. Because so many children who are on this medication for any length of time lose that ability to play anymore. And I was just shocked and thought, how do you sleep at night? Right. I can't imagine taking somebody's creative ability from them. What could possibly be worse than making somebody into someone who they're permanently
like a
scarred?
zombie?
Yes, they're a permanent zombie. What could be worse than that? Tell me a disease that you would rather have than that.